Okay, so we just finished covering security. So now we're going to move on to this next little bit. So let's talk about some options as far as like logging, monitoring, metrics, that kind of thing. And then we're going to talk about Trusted Advisor. Trusted Advisor is available. Trusted Advisor basically tells you when you need to pay attention to some things inside your account. But just as a forewarning, it's only available to people who have enterprise support plans, which is most organizations. But anyway, we'll talk about it. First thing up is metrics, right? What if you need to know how long it takes for you to make a coffee on average and the number of pastries for resale? What if you need things about inventory, things about capacity, things about customer satisfaction? How do you get those, right? So with a coffee shop, you've got thresholds, you've got actions, you've got metrics that you're paying attention to. And this together kind of like makes almost like a service level objective, right? Service level agreement somewhere, right? CloudWatch is the service that gathers metrics about almost every AWS service, whether it's EC2, DynamoDB, Lambda, doesn't matter. It's going to show up inside of CloudWatch, especially if you turn on detailed metrics, which is kind of the next meta or the next level of that. Now, CloudWatch has these pretty dashboards, and as it captures these metrics, you can actually see things like how are the disks doing? Like what are the write bytes for the volume? What about network in and out, right? What about IOPS? What about free storage space? So it allows you to create these pretty dashboards. Don't be fooled. CloudWatch has 11 sub-services underneath it. Everything from container insights, end-to-end user testing, service lens mapping. It's got all this crazy telemetry services, events, which can trigger other services. So just know that CloudWatch is the metrics repository inside of AWS. If you want to know not about your account, but about how services are performing inside your account, CloudWatch is where you're going to go. Now, what if you want to know what's going on inside your account? Like you don't want to know about the services. You want to know about the account itself. Who's making changes to services? Who's trying to access your console? This is where you use CloudTrail instead. CloudTrail actually allows you to track, for example, who, like, all of a sudden someone made a change. 2 days ago, the inventory specialist places an extra order because they think they're going to run out of coffee, because days before that, the cashier processed an unusually heavy day. If you want this kind of information about what's going on into your account, you're going to capture the CloudTrail logs. CloudTrail is going to show who, when, what, when, where, well, how, why. It won't show why. Yeah, you'll have to figure that out by yourself, right? But you can filter logs. It'll capture any unusual account activity. It'll show denies as well as accepted, right? So for example, it's going to show you what happened, who made the request, when did it occur, how did it happen, like what was the vehicle for it? Basically, where did it come through the AWS console? Did it come through the CLI? So CloudTrail is for events about changes that are made to your account. CloudWatch is about the resources and services, the performance of them inside your account. So let me ask you this. Between CloudTrail and CloudWatch, let's say CloudTrail in this particular case, which two activities can you use CloudTrail for related to your account? All right, so we know that D is one of them. Good. Ball, that's good. All right, the other one is actually B, track user activities and API requests throughout your AWS infrastructure. In other words, it can track AWS users and API requests against your infrastructure, but you cannot monitor infrastructure and services in real time. That's what CloudWatch is for. You can't view metrics and graphs. That's what CloudWatch is for. And you cannot configure automated actions and alerts in response to metrics, because that's what CloudWatch is for. So remember, CloudWatch is for helping to manage and metricize your internal services inside of AWS. CloudTrail is going to check who's coming into your account. That's what it's used for. Now, the other service that I mentioned briefly was around Trusted Advisor. Now, Trusted Advisor is interesting because let's say you had a consultant come in and was just observing your coffee shop and was kind of like making some recommendations for improvements. This is what Trusted Advisor does. Trusted Advisor gives you real-time guidance about whether or not you've got unutilized instances, or if you have stuff wide open to the internet, or, you know, if you like, you're not being like cost effective, right? If you want to see this in the console. Now, I don't have a support account, but you might still appreciate this. Oh, I have 0, by the way, recommended actions, but I have a couple of security investigations. Looks like one of my big buckets is wide open, which that is true. I actually did that on purpose, right? And then I have another one where the specific ports are unrestricted. That seems problematic. Probably want to look at that, right? Notice that I don't have access to all of these other checks, because I just want to say this is that you have to upgrade to a support plan, and this is just my demo account, right? In my other production account, it has like everything turned on. But just so you know, I think I pay well, I pay at least $100 a month for that. But if you want more checks, you have to have a business enterprise support plan. Notice it covers the pillars that it's going to cover are around cost optimizations, performance, security, fault tolerance or resiliency, and then service limits. Just know that Amazon has service limits that says how many virtual machines you can run in a single account. So that way you can't hurt yourself, and a hacker can't hurt you by trying to spin up 10,000 instances. They can't do that. You have to write Amazon with the service quota ticket and say, hey, can I raise my account limit to 10,000 instances? They're going to ask you for justification, verify who you are, and then they'll do it. But you have to ask for it. By default, an account does not have the ability to run, for example, that many virtual machines. When you get the dashboard, by the way, with all of its full glory, it looks something like this, which we just saw. Remember, I had no reds, I had 2 yellows, and a bunch of things that were green. So just be aware that Trusted Advisor doesn't actually change anything. It just says, hey, this is how this is. Is that what you want? Right? Now here's a good knowledge check. Which actions can you perform using Amazon CloudWatch, for example, right? So remember, we asked an earlier question about CloudTrail. This is CloudWatch. So pick 2 things that you can do with CloudWatch here. Good, Terry. So that you put A and D. Can you monitor your resource usage and performance and access metrics from a single dashboard? That's exactly right. Real-time guidance, by the way, is going to be Trusted Advisor. Compare your infrastructure to AWS's best practices. That's also going to be Trusted Advisor. Automatically detect unusual account activity. That's going to be CloudTrail. Other questions? Which service can you use to review the security of your Amazon S3 buckets for checking for open access permission? So which of these will automatically check for open access permissions and actually send you a recommendation? You just saw it actually when we were looking at the console just now from me. What service were we in? That's right. We were in Trusted Advisor. So even though I don't have access to the full checks, I had access to some. I think you get 7 out of the box. And so it said, hey, you know, oops. It said basically that Trusted Advisor was that was the service that we were in. Okay. So there were 5 sections of Trusted Advisor. Cost optimization was one of them, right? What were 2 that were listed here that were in that section? Cost optimization was another one, right? but there are two here that were also there. Service quota was another one, like service limits. So performance was one of them. And the other one I thought was like a variation. It's not really the same, but on reliability was basically his fault tolerance, right? So to see those again, cost optimization, performance, security, service limits, and then fault tolerance. Good. All right, so this is what you learned. CloudWatch is for metrics, about services. CloudTrail is about your AWS account and attacks against it. And then Trusted Advisor is a recommendation engine that basically sees if you comply with some of the best practices AWS recommends. Questions? Okay. And that is the end of Module 7.